The reality is only the way we perceive it. That's what makes it into reality. So whatever we settle on, that will become a reality. That is the reality. Our world can be completely and utterly rationalized and make us into robots. We don't need to be, we will become AI without having to cohabit as in the sci-fi books, right? No need. No need for copulation, no need for that. We will become robots, literally, in that sense. Because that's also a possibility. That's what dehumanization is. This is what really, really means what it is now. The final frontier is we're fighting right now for the rights to be beings of human, or humans of being.
One question I have is on the topic of technology and algorithms and AI. Does divine synchronicity, guidance, whatever you want to call it, does that manifest in our technologies? You know, some people he talked about, he was thinking about something and the right video just popped up. Do the algorithms that we're creating have a seed of divine synchronicity, guidance, or do you think they're detached?
What do you think?
Sometimes I get the right video and I think, wow, that was really, but then other times I think this is just sucking me into an entity or a rabbit hole or something really negative for me. So I think both could be happening at once. Maybe for the masses, it feels like one thing is happening.
So what do you do?
I work in marketing, but I have a tech.
No, not Sorry. What do you do in life. Oh. What do you do in cases like that? How do you let's say, guide yourself there? You know, which one is an act of synchronicity, the divine providence, and which is simply a merry-go-round or some kind of loop? Do you have some ways of how to go about it? Just curious.
I think it partly depends what state I'm in. If I'm in escape mode, then a lot of what I get is escapism content. If I'm in a very sort of a seeking state, I think I focus on the right thing. I'm more discerning.
So what does it mean then in turn, right? So it boils down to how aware you are, right? It boils down to how much consciousness in that moment, how conscious you are. This is simple, but I would suggest is important. How conscious you are at any given moment in time distinguishes from this being thrown into your feed just because this is how it functions in a system where it closed into itself and gotten into a loop. In other words, subjected to subconscious, unconscious patterns. See? So, what am I even leading to here? I will give the drastic example to illustrate this. You can do something wrong, but fully consciously. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm doing this as an example, and I said drastic one. You see? So, when we are taken for a ride, literally, because of these patterns of unconscious behavior, versus when we are doing something consciously. Out of that, I'm doing this consciously. Not because someone said so, now others do that, or because it ought to be done, or something. That's all there is. It's a very helpful compass, in a way, in the decision-making. And knowing the distinction, of course, between when am I being conscious and when I made believe to be conscious, whilst I, in fact, am following my own patterns that are being created before I even was born, or whilst I was growing up, or what have you. There have to be, one way or another, some bank account. There has to be some kind of, I would say, degree that affords that possibility. And this is where the necessity for meditation is paramount to. Because we cannot really hope that whilst we are going about our busy life, Even if we are reading the right books, hearing the right talks, doing this, doing that, that we will somehow solve the riddle of the Sphinx here when it comes to squaring the paradox, like squaring the round peg. Because it doesn't work. It's only that portion available of our conscious, to access to the conscious in that what the waking state here represents. Rest is all moved to the subconscious, which is the realm of dreams, and unconscious, which is the realm of deep sleep. So only meditation gives access to that. See? So in the olden days, this would be amongst ourselves, like back in the days, meditator versus non-meditator. Meditator is the one who lives differently, simply. He suffers the same, maybe in terms of pain and pleasure coin, having to go through whatever one has to go through life. But it's less propensity to hit oneself in a dark room against the corner of the open door or something. Because one simply have more light. And then the questions like this, when something comes out of synchronicity or something is simply a closed loop system, will not rise. They will be in a way, resolved. You see? You can have the most ridiculous thing popped into your feed, into your mind, into your field of awareness, the most ridiculous thing. But the amount of how conscious you are makes it into something instantly, because that's the capacity. Whereas reverse is also true. When you are half conscious, unconscious, following patterns, the most extraordinary thing you will not be able to truly make any sense out of it. You see what I mean? This could be the most amazing, life-changing passage, book, a movie, a conversation. You are not present, you are not conscious there. So it's all flying over the head. So one way or another, we have to build that. This is what I mean, bank account. There has to be this, something we can actually go and not afraid when we spend it on, it's like we know it's not going to bounce, whatever purchase, whatever check. Nobody writes checks these days, but so you can see everything as a synchronicity. Another way of looking at it, absolutely everything is an act of synchronicity. I don't know, maybe that's a lazy man's way to nirvana also, right? Why not? But everything is synchronicity. Then it's not synchronicity anymore. Then if everything is synchronicity, why would we call it synchronicity? Right? We don't think about breathing. It happens automatically by itself. A lot of other activities is all taken for granted, but it's mysterious, magical.
I guess I'm just trying to understand, we're bringing out all this technology over centuries, millennia. Is the technology itself, does it contain some sort of a spark of consciousness, like synchronicity? Is it sort of taking us in a good direction, or is it possible we're just imagining just anything that could take us towards just terrible outcomes, I guess, like terrible things? I'm trying to understand if this is some sort of a destiny, because you're talking about divine destiny and divine synchronicity. Is all this technology, including AI, all the bad things or possible risks, is that just part of that plan, kind of, or that synchronicity? Or do we have to be awake to be able to stop certain things? Like, no, we're not going down that path, we're going down this path.
Very interesting, because of course here this is where perhaps conversation we could raise the way of applying this, right? We could utilize another, what the Kashmiris Shaivites called upaya here. So obviously everything is the working of consciousness. So in the monistic system, in truly non-dual system, there is no other agency. So all this is working of one big mind. All this is part and parcel of one consciousness. So where it gets interesting and where it gets perhaps uneasy and fascinating at the very same time is that because the aspect which is indispensable, this is a quality within consciousness itself, exemplified in that plentitude, fullness. In other words, it's lacking nothing, it contains everything. It's a field of pure potentialities. In that field of pure potentialities, everything is a possibility, absolutely everything. Imaginable now and unimaginable, because in order to imagine something, by the way, it has to already exist. We cannot imagine what doesn't exist. This has been made, by the way, made in any way. Like you can ask the most amazing artist to draw something that doesn't exist, and he or she would not be able to do it. You can ask the most amazing musician to come up with a note that doesn't exist. You see where I'm getting at? So in other words, we only operate with what exists, because at this level of reality, manifested reality, we're only working with what already came into manifestation by continued reshuffling of it. All this is a reshuffling of what already exists. It's nothing other than a maybe extraordinary, sublimely, unimaginably intricate Lego work, right? Assembling, reassembling, right? You can buy Lego and assemble what Lego meant to be. That airplane, that car, that truck, that whatever, right? But then some people glue these Legos. You know that? I've met parents who's like, my son put so much effort and then he dismantles, he gets angry, every next project, Lego will be glued. So this airplane is forever now. So it's no longer Lego. See, because the beauty of Lego is that the kid dismantles it and it's a pile of, he may assemble something else. Get the drift, right? You dig it. So this is what we speak about, but when it comes to consciousness, it contains everything that it doesn't belong to this Lego setup, even if it's quadrillion samples available for your disposal. It exists already in the plentitude, in that plethora, in that fullness. And what makes it very interesting is that argument here is, if this is truly, and we believe that this monistic argument is being driven as the greatest secret throughout the millennia, then it is somewhere, all this is being made. This is why sometimes reading ancient myths can give you the freshest, most cutting-edge perspective on what is happening right now in our day and age. At least that's what happened to me when there was this propensity, need to read these myths. And of course, they are not myths, they are lore of, let's say, civilizational setup which took place thousands of years to form. And it's an extraordinary how all and everything is interconnected in the most unimaginable way possible, right? Leo Tolstoy managed to write War and Peace with notoriously 2,000 characters in it. 2,000 characters, where 1/4 of these characters are one way or another interconnected. That web of, you just can imagine what was going on. It's like this is solving of a crime on a wall with all the board, right? Pinning, arrows, this, that, right? It's done. We're talking about something algorithmically impossible even to measure what the epics deal with in terms of the connection, what is built there. But why am I pointing out to this? Is there some extraordinary insights that one can gain in terms of how this or that, let's say, myth or mythological encounter points to these aspects of what is available within consciousness, and how that can play itself out, how this possibility can be played out. And one of the most extraordinary myths is this myth of Saptarshis. Anyone of you familiar, anyone have heard Saptarshis, the great seers of reality? When the sky is clear and look into the sky tonight, and when you see the big bear, you know what I'm talking about? The star constellation, Big Bear. It represents the original rishis, the Saptarshis. They saw this reality into being. Check some of since you watched the YouTube videos, right? You came here through the YouTube. It's one of the funnel that creates that. There are talks where I gave even workshops, and maybe there were some recurrent 4 levels of speech, right? Anyone chimes here? When anyone came across these videos, 4 levels of speech? 4 levels of speech, right? 4 levels, like para, pashyanti, madhyama, and vaikari in Sanskrit. You know, the para here represents the beyond, right? The ultimate, the transcendent. The pashyanti here is that there's some frequency there within that. Some kind of tendency, intention is being set. Then that intention, which is pure energy, pure waves, begin to break into something particular at the level of madhyama, middle, but it's still not articulate. It's still at that level of molten state. But there is a propensity, you can see, imagine something is being now formed in that creatrix. And you can see, oh, this is like humanoid figure, oh, this is cap, oh, this is airplane. Like, I'm just saying, you know, it's amorphic, coming in and out of form. And finally, vaikari, that it's audible, written down, speech we communicate in, speech we read. Audible not just because to the ear, it's audible to ourselves when we think through the inner ear. So the level of reality is formed always, and foremost from the level of pashyanti, the second. Because in para, everything is a one homogeneous ocean of being, undifferentiated. Nothing, we could say, can be told apart from another. And at the level of pashyanti, there is this intention rises. But only this is myth, right? That there is this reminder. Only those whose point of consciousness is at that level, established at that level, they are established in being, so they have the capacity to work from the level of that pashyanti. And at that level of pashyanti, they create literally the reality out of this multiple possibility because they pick. And that's how the myth, don't get me wrong, I'm talking about retelling the myth in a concise storytelling like manner with these pointers, right? Are you with me? Do you hear where I'm talking about the myth and where we're connecting the dots? So according to the myth, we live right now, all our current civilizational setup, including the great pyramids, the ancient civilizations that came and go, the Atlantida, if it was one, and wherever, whatever, is part of that, what they conceived at some point at the level of pashyanti, and brought that to the level of madhyama, and then spilled it out at the level of vaikari as they sang. So these are Saptarshis, the rishis who came up with this creatrix. So it gave me plenty of wow when I encountered that, because it was also analogous to what I was experiencing in meditation, how there is this, even how I could see the disillusion of individuality completely, and how individuality goes back and again dissolved and goes back, and you can see it for what it is. And you can see how it's not a static affair. So there's no ego death. It's reading Eckhart Tolle literally. Or maybe Eckhart Tolle needs to brush up his, maybe he ride that wave now, he needs to sharpen up his act. No ego death, sorry. Ego doesn't die. Why? Because it's an act, it's not an entity. Entity can die. You can kill a flower, you take it out of water, a few hours, it'll be dead. Okay? But as an act, you cannot kill a flower. Is that clear? Activity versus entity. Ego is not an entity. So these Saptarshis, look at the sky, acknowledge, bow your head to these rishis. They're stars now. The amazing thing is where I was born, it has a ladle, because it's a ladle-like shape, right? You've heard of the large bear. It's a ladle-like. A ladle is a big spoon, right? In Central America, it's upside down. In equatorial waters, it's not the ladle, it's a ladle that is being poured out. It just struck me when we moved to Costa Rica, when I looked in the skies to find my favorite star constellation. And oh my, it's upside down. Cool, man. Well, at least I always loved stars as a kid even. Stars gazing. In Uzbekistan, you go to the mountains and the Milky Way, you need to wear sunglasses. It's so bright. It's so bright. You know why it's called Milky Way? Because it's literally as if something splashed across the whole skies. Like it's not. There are parts where there's no black sky. It's cluster of stars. Like that's what we're talking about. That's why it's called Milky Way. Because it looked like when you splash milk, So reality has been conceived already. Whose reality you're living? You think you're living your reality. That's liberal democracy. And those maybe engineers of liberal democracy, those who are in charge in this level of reality, would like us to believe that each and every one of us are actually our own masters, mastering our life through life. What a wonderful thing, living our life. A brick living a life inside next to another brick and feeling it's fantastic. You see, life is plastic, it's fantastic. There was a song in the 90s. It was a hit. I couldn't bear it. So speaking about this from that point of view, that, what is this AI? Is this part of the Saptarshis plan? Is it overlapping of realities here? Am I missing an opportunity to deliver you in a clear, non-dual, slogan-like kind of, just like it's all one awareness and that's it, and it's all done. Yeah, at one level it is all done. At another level, it's constantly frothing, bubbling, frothing with possibilities. Which possibility will see the light? Which possibility will live? Who knows? What if we live at that time when one dream exhausts itself and another one is rising? And at that very moment, there are possibilities for alternative realities to come and live. That's where continuation of these myths, that's why every affair settled through the war. In antiquity, this was understanding. And this is before Kali Yuga. This is while Krishna was still alive, which is traditionally marking the start of the Kali Yuga with departure of Krishna. No. The polarity has to be brought to its apogee. It has to, every dispute has to be settled. Mahabharata has Bhagavad Gita, that portions. 12 chapters of the Kurukshetra battle, right? The Mahabharata is a great book, right? Mahabharata, right? The great epic. And Bhagavad Gita forms only a slim portion of that, 12 chapters only, which is all about the war, the battle between Kauravas and Pandavas on the Kurukshetra. The same is in Ramayana. In Ramayana there is a war for liberation of Sita, liberation of Lanka. Rama comes to settle the affairs straight, but of course there has to be plot how you turn Rama against Ravana, the greatest demon, who subdued all the gods and planets through his penance, received it from Shiva. So even the greatest demon can be greatest scholar, greatest meditator, and receive boons from Shiva. That's what another thing cleared my mind about some misconceptions of goody-goody gumdrops. I thought as long as people meditate, they'll always be good. Ravana was the greatest meditator. Ravana sat for thousands of years in meditation. And then Shiva, well, the scores here has to be set. In Indian culture, it's very, very clear, Vedic culture that is. You sat that much in meditation, you demon, angel, I don't give a hoot. You sat, I saw it, what you want. Name your prize. Name your boon. That's it. His prize was all planets were subjugated, all planets of solar system. And immortality was granted. So Shiva has to so Vishnu has to reincarnate as Rama to get rid of Ravana, or rid the world of Ravana. But how you can do that? Avatars don't know their provenance unless they are Krishna-like. Very important understanding as well. So there had to be this setup, so Sita has to be stolen. And of course, when we go through that heart-wrenching moment of how it happened, right? What it caused, what a torment it caused to most devoted brother Lakshman represents. You know, you want to learn about devotion? You go, you want devotion without soap opera. That's devotion of Lakshman to Rama and Hanuman to Rama. It's devotion without soap opera. It's a devotion for what it truly represents. It's a heroic, of course, virya, very masculine devotion. It's a devotion which doesn't throw rose petals and rubs the feet and baths and this and that and prostrates. No. In a war, among the warriors, as the brothers were, the Kshatriyas have different command, different posture, different gesture. What torment it caused Lakshman, he was in the keep, Rama was hunting. That's when Sita was stolen. So leitmotif is said. Who did that? Of course it all happened within consciousness. Consciousness plotted that. So I'm responding you this long response, you see, but I don't feel it's just to give, yes, it's all consciousness. Next question, please. AI, it's a big fuck up. Sorry, this is not meant to be swearing. It's the end if it's truly what it represents. Truly. Not that it will have intelligence of its own. No, it cannot, never will. Intelligence is prana. And artificial intelligence doesn't have prana. But there are some other repercussions here, is that we lose along the way the most precious what we have. And we spoke to that, right? We spoke to that at some point this evening, didn't we? To lose the most precious. Will to power, to will ourselves into existence. To rise to the circumstances. This is why we're here. All this will be taken away because every enterprise, AI will do better. Absolutely every enterprise will do better. Yes or no? Well, this is what's happening. Is it within consciousness? Yes, of course within consciousness. Whose reality is that? Of course it is deep down our reality. Who's making choices? Well, let's see who will make choices. It's another answer to why we gather like that, why we have to form secret societies. Even if you don't have tattoo or ring or something, or secret society can be formed through the heart. And the heart is that connection. The heart is that space. The purity of intent could be that what etched in our heart. It's by far more important than what I put on my shoulder or on my chest and tell you, emulate that. You see? Emulate that. It's flesh. What's etched on the heart is forever. So which reality? You tell me which reality. Which reality is frothing? What will live? What will take over? It's constantly decided. Constantly decided. And this is what, when you look at the stars, you see, is this a myth? Is this reality? Where is the line between? Wow, another extraordinary realization. If you can't draw on a piece of paper what doesn't exist, no matter how much you use your imagination, and that was the man who did that from the age of 12 professionally. Professionally. So it's not just read in books. It's not because I read Arnheimer, the theory of all the conceptual thing of how visual all functions. No. It's all sucked with the milk of the mother and then implements it. No, you can't imagine what doesn't exist. That should really, really put some matters straight here. So then what? How? So you have to go to the state where everything is in a state of molten, state of pure potentiality. There's no other way. There's no other way. So you see the stars. Was it a myth? Just a lore? Are we living in the mind, or are we living as a result of the vibration set forth? What is it? What is the reality then? And this is where the true understanding begins. The true understanding. The reality is only the way we perceive it. That's what makes it into reality. So whatever we settle on, that will become a reality. That is the reality. Our world can be completely and utterly rationalized and make us into robots. We don't need to be. We will become AI without having to cohabit as in the sci-fi books, right? No need. No need for copulation, no need for that. We will become robots, literally, in that sense. Because that's also a possibility. That's what dehumanization is. This is what really, really means what it is now. The final frontier is we're fighting right now for the rights to be beings of human, or humans of being. It's to remaining that, what is that Saptarshi's dream was, or being taken over by some other dream, some other reality. You see? Could be seen that way as well. And yes, of course it is within the same consciousness. But where that consciousness is, where it rests, that's another question altogether.